Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast. And we're here today after Derby's fourth win in a row. I mean, I didn't think I'd say that this season. I didn't know when I'd say that again, probably in League One next season, the way things were going. But Derby have won 4 games in a row and have jumped outside of the relegation zone for the first time in quite some time. So, yeah, it was a really, really special night last night. Wasn't a great game. I think we can all agree on that one. But it was a really good night and a great feeling waking up this morning knowing that Derby maybe aren't quite as doomed as we thought a few weeks back. So joining me tonight, first off, debutant Ivan Little. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks, mate. Much, much better than the last 3 weeks today. So very happy.
Me too. Honestly, me too. I've also got Nick Drewett. How are you doing, pal?
I'm all good, thank you, mate. It's my first time after a win, so I've done two really depressing reviews of losses, and then the last time, me and Cal had to pick a team out of the 3 worst squads because that's how bad life was. But now, yeah, it's really nice to have a bit of positivity, a bit of faith back in football. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I mean, it is special, isn't it? That you could feel it in the ground. You could really feel it. And it was massive for us getting those wins before the international break, but there were always, I guess, lingering worries that Derby had come back and we'd lost a bit of momentum and we wouldn't quite be the same team. And, you know, we might come off track a little bit. But Ivan, how big a win was that for the confidence in the team? Not just winning that first game after the international break, but at the same time, jumping out of that relegation zone for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I think psychologically it's massive. I think it really helps us that we've got sort of 4 or 5, 6 teams around us that are like still in the fight because, you know, a lot of them don't have a lot to like, they don't have anything to look forward to. I think having a manager change is such a big thing. And it's really sort of taken us forward and given us something to sort of work towards, whether like a lot of the other teams are stuck with the same managers, same players and the same form. So yeah, it's been really good. But I think the biggest thing about yesterday was just the management of the game. It's much better than, you know, everyone wants to sort of stride past players and pass and score like loads of goals. But I think in that first half, even though, like you said, it was really boring and we were pretty poor, we managed the game really well. I didn't feel like we were going to concede, other than 90 seconds in or whatever it was. So after that, I felt pretty comfortable and secure in the first half. So.
Well, it certainly did. I mean, Nick, yeah, that first 90 seconds aside, you know, when you think about the game as a whole, Derby actually looked fairly comfortable throughout. Like we said, like we've all said, wasn't the best game, but Derby didn't look like a team that was down at the bottom. Actually, it looked like the most mid-table game of all time, probably. But I mean, overall, how were you feeling after that?
Yeah, I mean, you know what last night was? Last ball with a manager with a semblance of a plan and tactical ability. It was low block, hit them on the break, crosses, but crosses with a purpose.
Talk is
I managed to press every wrong button then. Go on, keep going, Nick.
We've got a soundboard to play with at some point, but yeah, cool. But no, it was. Yeah, I don't think, like Ivan said, I didn't feel under any pressure other than Niambi's little miss kick early doors. But the 3 lads that we've now got at the back, they're not looking like they're getting beat at the minute. Zetterstrom only had that save to make. His catch-in was brilliant, I thought. I thought big props to Zetterstrom, actually. His kicking was still a little ropey, but his command of his box, his coming and claiming, I thought was the best I've seen for quite a while. Yeah, you know, the whole back 6 as a unit, it was just solid. And you could see, you know, the 5 and then the 2 centre mids and the 2 that were further up in support of Yates. You could see everyone moving as a unit, you know, and it's just nice. It's nice to see a plan, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I tell you what, speaking of plans, I managed to hit a back button on my mouse a minute ago. It knocked me out the studio, removed all the videos I'd queued up. So that's why we just had a couple of seconds of chaos there. But I mean, speaking of a couple of seconds of chaos, Ivan, Derby's kickoff. I mean, a minute in, we get a corner, the ball gets headed out. And it ends up at the halfway line. And Ryan Nyambe, I don't know what he's trying to do, a massive miscue. Ends up playing, I think it's Osmajic through on goal. And if he was a better player, well, I'll tell you what, he probably should have put that away. He runs clean through on goal. He's got a pass to his right, probably a bit of an open goal to the far side. And instead, he puts it straight down the throat of Zetterstrom. Problem is, Nyambe then instantly tears his hamstring. I mean, how's that for luck? He's just come back and straight away he's back out the team again.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first touch that ruined it for him. It was sat on a plate, and if he'd done anything but what he did with that first touch, he would have been through, and like you said, would have definitely put it away. It's such a shame about Nyambe because I really, really do like him. Think defensively, he's really important. I prefer Wilson, like I think a lot of people do, just for how he gets us going forward. So that actually worried me a bit, seeing him come on that early, because I think if Eustace thought he could play 90, he would have started him. And so having him come on after 2 minutes, I was like, I could see him going back off, to be honest, not necessarily with an injury, but just to conserve him. But yeah, with Nyambe, I think a few of the people around me were like surprised. I was so angry. I was just like, it's such an important stretch of the season, and it's just such a needless thing to do. Even the best case scenario, he connects with it perfectly and it goes back to Zetterstrom, and it's like, yeah, fine, just send it back. You've got a left foot. I know he's not left-footed, but send it back where it came from. You know, like it's the age-old thing, like just passing back to the keeper from a half volley, like that's spinning in the air, and it's just you and the striker. It's just not worth it. So I was fuming, but I'm really glad I got to get it out there. So but yeah, like I said, I was really worried about Wilson coming on, and he did brilliantly, and I'm really happy with how he played. But he went down, and then Elder went down like 2 minutes later. What felt like 2 minutes later. I think it was very quickly, and I just saw it all come piling down. Where Wilson's going to go down later, and we're going to be forced to go to a 4, and it's going to be. I thought Fozzie was going to go to left back or left wing back, and we were going to bring on Peters because Peters was warming up just in front of me. And I just saw everything going wrong in my head. I was like, please just let Wilson be fine and Elder get up. Because Elder looked like he was done. He was waving his hand. He was holding his knee. He looked like he was like complete. I said to my dad, I was like, he's done. Like, I promise you, he's done. And luckily,
life of a Derby fan, though, isn't it? Expect the worst.
Yeah. Expect the worst with injuries as well. Like some of the stuff that we've been through with injuries, I was just like, well, that's it, and that's the whole system. You know, we don't play very wide. We don't really have the wingers to go to 4 at the back and play with wingers. So it's really important having them there. And losing both of them would have been really, really tough. But yeah, no, I'm super happy with how it went in the end.
Yeah, well, you look at the first half, and it was a really poor first half. And I think Derby probably struggled to find their rhythm a bit, didn't they, Nick? After, a minute in, right wing back goes down, goes off. Like Ivan said, a couple of minutes later, left wing back goes down, ends up hobbling around for the next 5 minutes. It kind of seemed to shock Derby a little bit. And I know there was clearly a bit of rust there. They'd not played for nearly 3 weeks. You lose one of your players straight away, a lot of stoppages. The game didn't really flow at all, did it? Do you think that kind of affected Derby in the first half? Because we didn't look like the team that we've been. I'll tell you what we looked like. We looked like a Paul Warne Derby team in that first half. We didn't look like the Derby team we've seen in the last few weeks.
Yeah, true. And I think it was Harnine's sort of worst half under Eustace. We've been looking to him for the spark recently. A lot of the balls were just a bit aimless. Yates was doing a lot of chasing fruitlessly. But I think the important thing is we didn't concede. At one point, Preston were on and something like 75% possession, but that's still the only shot that we conceded on target. And just back on that, I think mad respect to Harrison Armstrong for getting back and at least,
Yes.
it was a terrible touch from Osmajic, but at least Harrison Armstrong then forced him into shooting when he did. And I was, again, so impressed with him last night in terms of just his composure, his ability to do the simple things, his love of getting a foot in. I think he deserves a mention for last night as well. But yeah, there's not much to say about the first half apart from those opening couple of minutes. Move on to the second and we'll all be smiling.
Yeah, well, we certainly will, because we all know what happened in that second half. Yeah, the most boring first half in quite a while. Nothing happened. And then suddenly, second half, Derby come flying out the blocks. Now, we'll go through the goals one by one, Ivan. I mean, the first goal, Elder puts the corner in. It was a bit of a weird corner because it kind of looked like he just massively overhit it. But the problem for Preston was that 6'5" Nat Phillips was at the back post, heads it back across, and there he is, the striker, the goal scorer, the man that will still be here in 20 years' time, Craig Forsyth.
Roberto Foslos.
Yeah, I don't know if that one will catch on, but it's a great touch by Fozzie. Cuts onto his left foot and puts a really, really good finish into the bottom corner. I mean, I know it wasn't their first choice keeper in goal, but I don't think any goalkeeper stops that. Placed right in the corner. What a finish. I mean, that man cannot be stopped. He is inevitable. He'll always be here. He always performs and he always delivers, doesn't he?
He's going to outlast us all. I promise you. He'll be there long after I'm gone. That's for sure. So, and he's about 12 years older than me. So he is, he was fantastic. I've had so many times over the years, like I think a lot of people have with Fozzie, where it's like, you go through the cycle of like, he's not going to play, then something happens, he plays, he's not good enough. Like this year, he's actually I think he stepped in brilliantly the whole time, but often it's been, he comes in, he's not quick enough, he's not quite there, you think he isn't anyway. And then he sticks he keeps his position in the team, and then he just eventually outlasts whoever we've signed or moved into the team to replace him. And you eventually figure out that actually he's just going to have to stay there forever. So I love him. I love the loyalty. I love how he's been there for, like almost as long as I've had a season ticket, and he's just always been there. So I absolutely love him. In terms of the set pieces, I think it's difficult to see a massive change, but there is change to how Warne was doing it. And obviously he set the precedent for how we were towards the end. We weren't very good from set pieces, but at the start we couldn't do anything but score from set pieces. And so I think it's using the same things, but slightly changing it. And they're, like we were saying with Nat Phillips, it's clear that he wants Elder to do these big looping crosses that go to the back post and then bring it back in with one of them, because there are a few that went over everyone. So as soon as that was happening, I was like, right, there's a clear sort of plan of get it in the air as long as you can, and they'll beat everyone in the air, which I love. Swinging it in's great if you have a bunch of people who can cross it perfectly and people that are ready to go there. But if you've got three lads who are bigger than everyone, win everything all night, which they do, stick it in the air as long as you can and give them time to get under it and put it where you want. And it happened twice. And yeah, the finish was just, I was watching Adam's YouTube video and he had the perfect sort of angle of it, where it sort of looks like he mishits it and it just sort of bumbles in, but it's perfect. It's literally perfect. It's about that close to the post. It goes through about 6 people after taking 3 or 4 touches in the box. I don't think Yates had that many touches in the box in the whole game, or maybe in the last season. Yeah. So him taking it down and having the composure to do that at a time where we really needed him to do it, I think that just perfectly encapsulates who he is. He's there when we need him every single time. He's always turned up at the right times. And like I said, he outlasts every player that we get in to replace him. And he costs, I don't know how much he cost us, a few $100,000, but 13, 14 years ago, however long it is. So I think it's fair to say we've probably got our money's worth by now. But if he keeps us up with those 2 goals that he's already scored, then he's really, really pushing it for a second testimonial. So I'm very happy with him.
Yeah, he's only about 8 years away, isn't he? So he'll probably make that.
We deserved another one. The first one was just a friendly against Stoke. So I think the fans are getting behind him getting a proper testimonial where we can actually pay our respects to Mr. Derby County. So hopefully that'll happen in the future.
Yeah, that would definitely be nice. I mean, Nick, keeping on the theme of Craig Forsyth, he's out of contract at the end of this season. Again, it's the endless cycle of we'll give Fozzie another year. This is probably his last year, and then it's like, he's actually quite good, and then we'll give him another year, and I think this will probably be his last. You know what I mean? It's the endless cycle of that seems to have been going on for years and years. He drops out of the team, magically returns. And keeps playing as well as he has. I mean, would you give Fozzie another year?
I'm on record on this podcast previously of saying that I would give Craig Forsyth as many years as Craig Forsyth wants. And I'm genuinely serious about that. All joking, all nostalgia aside, but he never lets us down. You can count over the 14 years that he's been here. You'd be pushed to count on two hands the amount of bad games he's had in 14 years. He's always there. He's dependable. He's done left wing back. He's done left back. He's done left centre half. He's done right centre half. It's a bit of rose tinted glasses. I had the privilege of meeting him and selling him a car once, actually. And he's just as lovely in real life as he portrays in the media and whatever. He's just a great guy. And yeah, I'd give him as long as he wants. I certainly think to just have around the club. I really hope he goes into some kind of coaching capacity with us one day, and I reckon Eustace would be big on that. You've only got to look at the reports that Corn's now training with the group just to be an experienced head around that's been in these kind of situations before. So yeah, it was interesting to listen to Eustace last night. Actually, you forget Eustace played with Fozzie at Watford.
Yeah,
as well. So his association with Fozzie goes back like a couple of years before derbies.
Yeah, you can't keep them apart, can you? Inseparable, the two of them. But yeah, it's great, and we're just rebuilding the 2013-14 team basically. Are we? Jeff Hendrick's back, John Eustace is back,
George Thorne.
Will Hughes is out of contract in the summer.
Yeah, Will Hughes will be next. I'm sure he'll go from top half Premier League to us. I'm sure
Albin Tozer's probably around somewhere. We could probably dig him out. He's a little bit later.
Last time I saw him, he was playing in Bulgaria. I wonder what he's doing now.
He's a top player, mate. He's a top player.
As long as he brings the insoles this time. But let's look at that second goal. I mean, again, it's pretty much the same goal, but from the other side. Set piece scenario. It ends up coming out to Callum Elder, who swings the ball across the box. Nat Phillips is the first one up there. He wins the header. And Yates scores with numerous parts of his body at the same time. I think it hit his ankle, his shin, his chest, just everything, all of him, all at the same time, and flicks it into the back of the net. I mean, it's a really, really important goal, isn't it, Ivan? A really important goal for Derby, because Yates hadn't scored in quite some time. He hadn't scored in open play in a long, long time. I don't think he'd scored one this year in open play. So for him to be back on the score sheet is really important for him, and it helped give Derby a bit of a cushion.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally night and day from Warne. If Warne, in the few times that we did go ahead, it was like, right, do anything you can to stay with it. Like, if anything, a draw's fine, is what it felt like. And with Eustace, we just pressed straight away. It was like, no, let's go for another one. It's a Wednesday night. They've played on Sunday. They're not up for it. They're away. They don't have many. They had about 25, 30 fans there. And it was like, just step on it now and we'll get another one. And I think one of the big things for me was touching back on Armstrong is that he's obviously a great player. There's loads of things that he does that are really obvious, like, you know, the tackles, the long, like some of the passes that he makes, the reading of the game. But there was just a little thing that I noticed in that exact goal where he's got the ball and they're sort of trying to get out. They've cleared it a little bit and it's come back to him. And he's facing sort of the keeper, our keeper. And I can name you a million midfielders in the world that would just spray it back to the keeper, start again, get the shape. And he didn't, and he turned. And it was like, that's where the confidence comes from, that maybe he might not have even been able to do sort of, I think he would because he's a confident player. But 2 months ago, you wouldn't do that. It's like, no, we don't get the ball a lot. Let's keep it. And for him, it was like, no, I'm going to turn in. I'm going to play a pretty difficult pass to Elder down the line. It wasn't a lot of space down there. And then Elder puts in a looping ball that we saw quite a few of. And it's, you know, Nat Phillips is always going to win that because they weren't all marking who they wanted to mark because the ball had gone out. So it was just, it was such a nice goal to see. I didn't actually celebrate because I was waiting for like an offside or something. It just was so weird. It was such a weird goal
So
where I
slow.
couldn't see who'd scored it. Yeah. I didn't even really see the net ripple. So I was like, something's happened. So I'm not really celebrating. And then I see sort of Jerry Yates wheeling away. And I'm like, okay, maybe, you know, he did score. But it didn't look like it from my perspective. It just looked like it had been bundled in by one of their players. But yeah, it was a great time to score, obviously. And it just felt like 1-0, maybe they could have nicked one back towards the end, but they were really poor. So it's like, get 2-0. They want to go home. They didn't fancy any of it in the second half. They didn't really, even after the second goal, they didn't really sort of buck up their ideas or like really go for it. It was done, even though I didn't feel that at the time. It was, you know, it was done at that point. And it was so important. And that's one thing that it's game management. Again, I know I said it before, but game management, it's like, no, let's go and get another one while they're sort of trying to figure out what's going on at the back. Go and put another one in and end the game so that we can have a little bit of a nicer last sort of 40 minutes, which it actually wasn't. I still felt like we were going to concede 2 in the 90th minute, as I always do. So, but it was great. It was a fantastic goal. I'm really happy for Nat Phillips as well.
Well, absolutely. And looking at it, Nick, it was identified. We had Jolly Ollie from his Preston channel talking about Preston beforehand, and he said Preston don't defend balls into the box well. If you've got big players in the box, they will punish them. And that's exactly what Derby did. And that shows that Eustace has done his homework. And the fact that it was almost 2 identical goals, really, wasn't it? You know, 2 balls in the box from the same player, 2 headers down from the same player. It's just a different player on the end of it to put the ball in the back of the net. Derby definitely did their homework there on Preston. I mean, it's so nice to see, isn't it? And it's such a change from what we're used to.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is Eustace is playing as well to our strengths. You've only got to look at, he's a 4-2-3-1 man. And he's come in, he's played that in his first game, and he's gone, right, this squad can't do that. So I'm going to adapt. And I'm going to play to the strengths of what we've got. You know, all of a sudden, obviously, you go back to the Plymouth game, and all of a sudden, we've got long throws. Who knew that Kane Wilson had got a long
throws?
Well, yeah, but you know, but they're trying to weaponise that and the strengths of our team. You know, yeah, they said that Preston couldn't defend balls into the box. Nat Phillips, Matt Clark, and Fozzie have got to be 3 of the biggest defenders in the league, particularly Nat Phillips. I mean, the man's a monster. It's simple, isn't it? Football's a simple game when people actually have a clue and a plan. Eustace has shown that. I don't think in any way this is going to be resemblant of a Eustace team next season after he's had a closed season, a transfer window and a pre-season. But it's the Derby we need now. And it's doing the job for us. You know, yeah. I'd take 7 more first halves like yesterday if it gets us to 50 points.
Yeah, I think I would as well. Although I don't think during those first halves I'd probably have the same sentiment, but I definitely would take it. I mean, having a quick glance at the comments, a lot of positive comments towards Craig Forsyth, and a comment from Adam Lilly as well, saying, "Yeah, Eustace does his homework," whereas beforehand it was all about trying not to lose. And yeah, that mentality point is something that Ivan said as well, wasn't it? We wanted to go for it. We wanted to win the game, and I think that's a big part of it, Ivan, is that we actually do want to win the game, and the players have got that belief. I mean, just kind of piecing things together. Dwight Gale did an interview recently. I can't remember what podcast
where
it
he
was
couldn't
now.
remember Paul Warren's name.
Yeah, he couldn't remember Paul Warren's name,
Brilliant.
but he talked about him and talked about his team talks and things like that. And he said, you know, he'd do like Braveheart speeches every single game and try and get the lads fired up. And he even said last season some of the lads were tired of it. Some of the lads had had enough of it. Eustace talks about his half-time team talk. He said, went in perfectly calm, just reminded the lads, you are actually good enough. You need to believe in yourselves, do what you do, and you'll get a result. And the players came out and absolutely battered Preston for that first 15 minutes after half-time. I think that mentality point is a massive change, isn't it? It is a massive change. Nick's put in our secret private chat that we've got here that he's got a point to make about the subs. Go on, Nick. Go on, I'll set you up now.
So
Open net.
It's nice to see subs not just being made for the sake of subs. You could time one subs at 62, 73 and 85 every week without fail. And the first sub that was made last night was one of the holding midfielders came off for Caden Jackson, a forward-thinking player, when we were 2-0 up. And that was, to Ivan's point previously, it was get after him still. While you've got him down, keep on him. You know, we've all had a laugh, we've all had a joke about Caden Jackson, haven't we? But I thought he was decent last night when he came on. He's a decent, you know, as an impact player, he's got pace. And yeah, it's just nice to see subs being made with a purpose as opposed to just a paint by numbers.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's probably Jackson's best role. I think you're right. I think off the bench, he'll look a different player because he's got the pace to trouble defences, hasn't he? You know, if you're tired and you see one of the league's quickest players coming on, you're going to be worried about it. I think that's probably why he had the success he had at Ipswich, because he played a similar sort of role and he looked a lot more dangerous. So, yeah, hopefully he can keep doing that and maybe get his confidence back a little bit. He's clearly lost a lot of confidence, so it'd be nice for him if he can get a little bit back. But Ivan, one thing we do have to touch on, obviously the attack played pretty well, the midfield played pretty well, but Derby's back five overall were brilliant last night, weren't they? I think Matt Clark looked so calm, so confident, so assured at all times. You know, there are a couple of times where he loves his Cruyff turns and quick flicks either side and things like that. And you've got Nat Phillips next to him, who maybe was a tiny bit lucky not to give a penalty away. I'm not sure. People are debating it in the comments. Some people saying it's a pen. Some are saying it's not.
I still haven't got over that. I don't care if it's a pen or not. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, it was rash. But he got 2 assists, so we'll let him off. I did think it was interesting that the player that went down didn't appeal, though. That was the thing for me. He didn't appeal, which makes you think that he knew he got the ball. So I don't know. We're all just guessing. I don't know. But
either way,
yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
What he's doing is setting up 2 goals and winning the Rams 3 points, mate. So, I mean, the whole back five, though, Ivan, how impressive were they? Zetterstrom as well, because they got a lot of criticism earlier on in the season and they got a little bit flaky. We were letting in a lot of goals, but recently they've just been unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love Nat Phillips. I love Fozzie. I love Zetterstrom. I really like all of them. For me, it's Clark. Clark is such a premium player. It can easily be perceived with him as like he's just a brute who's tall and will head anything and will put his body on the line. He's much more technical than that. He really knows when to step in, when to do what he does. There's been a couple of points in the last sort of 4 games where he's done some questionable sort of half clearances. But I really think he is someone that needs to, like, if I could re-sign anyone who's potentially not going to be with us next season, either league, he is someone I would put everything into game. I think he's a really, I thought that when he was with us last time. I really think he's a proper player. And I love the two either side of him. I love the whole defence. But I think he is the sort of centerpiece of all of it. And he really sort of puts everything in, like, you know, it makes everyone play with confidence when you have someone like that sat in the middle who's on their striker the whole game. He will take the assignment of the striker every time and he'll sit on him and he'll deal with him every single time. And it kind of reminds me of what Curtis Davies used to do to Mitrovic whenever he would come and play. He just sits on him. It's not as easy as it looks doing that. You got to know when to read the game, when to commit, when to go for the header, when to step off your man. And it's not easy with a physical player like that. But I think the main point for me is, like I said, the defense has been great. The system's been fantastic. The man management has been unbelievable. The thing for me is you get to the end of the game where we've won 4 in a row. And in a lot of the games, other than, you know, Harness scoring a bunch where you know he's going to get man of the match, it's really hard to sort of say this player's doing it for us or that player's doing it for us. Or, you know, like I saw a lot of people saying that Eustace couldn't do it without like Smodics because, you know, like he's the one scoring. We don't have that. You know, Harness has been great. Like Yates has been, you know, doing the system well. Ebu's a good player, but like Phillips has had some great games. Clark, same thing. But they're all playing well. Elder's been a, you know, changed man. Like it's really down to the manager. You can really say that in all 4 games, the manager could have got man of the match if that was possible, because I don't know who to pick. Like they all just do what they have to do. They connect really well. They play as a team, and there's literally not one of them where I think that's a bit of a weak link, or even the other way where I think without him, we're in real trouble. You know, I think Ebu is one of the best players we have, if not the best player. I think he's so important to what we do. But with our system, I would have a little bit more trust if we lost someone like that, because I just see them set up so well, and the way he manages it is so elite that the whole team spreads out perfectly and everyone is just working together to get what we need. And like Nick said, it's, you know, it might not be the same next year when we're not under the cosh and we have to just get results. But I have so much confidence that he's going to, I don't care about the team or who's playing or his subs. I just trust him, which I didn't have with Warne, and I didn't have with Warne even in League One, really. I'd never really trusted what he was going to do. And Eustace, I just think, you know, he could bring Jackson on at centre-back and I would probably have a pretty confident outlook. Yeah. And I'm not a big Jackson fan. So, yeah, I just think it's unbelievable what he's coming and doing. There's still loads of work to be done. But when you have a system like that and you're not trusting big players, it makes me much more confident. And, you know, I'm not worrying like, oh, if this player goes down, we're done. So I'm really happy with how he's managing it all.
Yeah, he's certainly doing a good job so far, but we're not safe yet. We need to keep that in mind. So on to the next big game, Swansea away. Huge game this weekend. Swansea mid-table, kind of not really pushing for playoffs, kind of not really falling off a cliff at the minute. You know, they're very mid-table, and Derby going to it in really good form. So you've got to hope that we've got a chance. So you know this already because I've already pressed the button like a clown earlier. But we've got Swanscast who have very kindly recorded a little bit of a preview for us. So here we go. Swanscast, let's hear what they think ahead of Saturday's game.
Rams Talk, it's Luke from Swanscast here, just to give you a little bit of an insight ahead of Swansea against Derby on the weekend. Apologies for recording this in my car on the way from work, been a bit of a busy time, so I'll try and get this done for you and hopefully give you some insight into the match. So how has Swansea performed this season? Been a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. The first half of the season, bit of a slow start, but we definitely got a ball rolling. It was, a mixed bag. We were winning some, losing some. Very much a mid-table sort of team, but pushing on more top half, I think, early doors this season. It looked like with Luke Williams having his first full season in charge, potentially if he could, get his own stamp on the squad and the way we were playing and the tactics and get them gelling a bit more, which was happening over time. Some games were getting a lot better than others, if you like. We looked like we were heading in the right direction, building up some momentum, and we started kind of looking up the table, especially towards Christmas. there was talk of us entering maybe the playoff, chasing Hunt, and I think at one point we were only 3-4 points off the playoffs and playing really quite well over the Christmas period. He then got linked to a job at West Brom, which never materialised, but I think there's definitely a lot in the speculation, got addressed in the media, he didn't deal with it very well, and ultimately the way that he responded was kind of a come and get me plea, and then they never came and got him for whatever reason. So he's kind of left with a bit of pie on his face, if you like. And ever since that happened, the form took the most dramatic dive off a cliff you could ever have seen. And this was literally New Year's Day, where we got thumped 4-0 away to Portsmouth. And the context there is every single game this season before then, we had not lost a single game by more than 1 goal. So really contrasting fortunes. And it just continued all of January and up to when he got sacked mid-February. I think there was, I want to say, 1 win within that period and 1 draw. The rest of them were defeats. And yeah, he got sacked. Probably the right decision. I personally think it should have come sooner. I think after the disrespect he showed to the club based on the speculation, it was always going to be a tricky road to recover from there. And I think it affected our January business. A really disappointing window on the face of it. And we also lost club captain Matt Grimes. So the season just kind of went up in the air after Christmas. And what was looking at being a second half of the season where we could perhaps be quite strong, and if we had things go our way, had a really good January window, be looking at knocking on the door of playoffs if we could get some form together. It ended up looking more like we were looking over our shoulder at a relegation battle because of that run of form that we entered into, and the performances just went so bad. And I don't know, at certain points under Luke Williams in the last few games, you didn't know where the next win was coming from. Now, Alan Sheehan has come in to replace him as interim manager since being confirmed until the end of the season, and he immediately picked up results with a 3-0 win against Blackburn. But in the 6 games he's had in charge, is 2 wins, 2 draws and 2 defeats. So form definitely picked up. Been some tough games in there as well, like our last performance against Leeds where we got a 1-0 draw, and the game for that was against Burnley. So we have had some tough games, and they're picking up points. So really improved form, and it just shows that something just was not right with Luke Williams after that speculation. The team have even responded instantly, so I'm not sure whether he lost the dressing room as a result of potentially not being committed to what was going on at Swansea. But we'll never know the detail. But at least it's kind of going in the right direction now, and I feel a little bit more comfortable about the distance we are from the relegation battle. Whereas if he was still here now, I think I'd be a little bit worried about being involved in it. Not saying we're out of it, don't get me wrong. Losing to yourselves, and we've got Plymouth after you. If they're both defeats, we're right back in it. But I think, you've got to take the position you're in the league, and there's far worse teams, not far worse teams, but teams in far worse positions than us. So we've got to just look at what's in front of us and control what we can control. Which players are likely to cause the most damage to this Derby team? A little bit difficult to say at the moment because we're kind of playing a bit different under Sheehan now than Luke Williams. But I think O'Brien, who's come on loan from Sheffield, what is it, Sheffield Wednesday? Don't quote me on it. I haven't got any of my facts and figures in front of me right now, but he's come on loan for, it's not Sheffield United, I don't think. Can't remember who it is, someone in the Prem. But he's come on loan, and he's really been a good player for us. He's really taken control of that midfield role since Matt Grimes has left. He's really not doing the same job. He's not the same sort of player, but he's more direct. He runs with the ball. He kind of drives through from midfield. And I think that's really helped with Alan Sheehan's way of playing, which is a little bit more direct than the really high possession system we were using under Luke Williams. I'm not saying we don't like to keep the ball. I think, we do generally want to still do that, but it's far less than what we would do before. So the possession stats that were high 60s in the past, some games were actually below 50s. So definitely a difference in how we're playing, and he's definitely the driving force in the centre of the park for us. So he might not be the one that's scoring the goals, but in terms of doing the damage and linking the play and getting the ball forward, creating the chances and dangerous sort of opportunities or areas of the pitch that we get into, he's definitely one that's driving a lot of that. Any weaknesses in the Swansea team? I think probably, we're not as clinical as we should be, so that's a weakness you could say if we don't always score when we should, but we are always susceptible to conceding goals and stupid goals as well. I think there was a period over that January period I mentioned where we were significantly far ahead in the league table regarding player errors that led to goals. I can't remember the exact amount now, but we were double figures when I think our closest rival was 4 or 5 below us, and that just says it all about some of the results. Like, individual errors, players switching off. Whether it was more linked to the possession-based system we were using and that going wrong in the past, maybe. But there's still been a few since where like a pass back to the keeper goes wrong, or a player runs into trouble and it results in players being in on goal. Joe Allen even played for Wales the other day and did something similar where he kind of passed back and he was intercepted for a goal. So seems to be a bit of a trait with us. So maybe a bit of a high press and putting us under pressure in the right areas of the pitch will lead to an opportunity or two that maybe that you could take. Score predictions for this game. I think we're on the back of a 2-2 draw away at Leeds, and the form has definitely picked up. Like for us, I know it's the same for you. This is a big game, but for us, if we can win this game, it really puts us in a comfortable position for the end of the season. I think keeping a distance between ourselves and those down the bottom end, and we've got Plymouth at home in the game after, so hopefully we can do you a lot of favour then and have the same sort of winning aim in that one. With 2 massive wins there, really puts us in a safe position. So that's what I think we need to be aiming for. However, I know this is going to be one, I guess you guys are aiming for 3 points in your charge up the table with four straight wins. So I don't think by any means it'll be an easy game for us at all. I know you'll be without Jerry Yates, so I don't know how instrumental he is to the way you play at the moment, but I know he scored in your last game and he won't be available. So I'm going to say a 2-1 win for Swansea, but it would not shock me in the slightest if we, off the back of drawing with Leeds, don't show up to this one and come away with nothing. So good luck for the rest of the season. I do hope that you can manage to stay in the division, and maybe I'll chat to you again next season. But yeah, been nice chatting with you, and check out Swanscast if you would like to catch up anything else about the game.
There we go. Thank you very much to Swanscast for that. I tell you what a beautiful voice, by the way. I was in a trance for that entire clip there, and I just woke up as it ended. But it's very interesting to listen to the Swansea perspective. I actually thought they were further away than they actually are. We're only 4 points behind them. So if we win this game, we go a point behind them, 5 points behind them. 4 points. I can't do maths. It's way too late in the day for this. We're four points behind them. Jake. You shook your head, Nick. You put doubt into my mind. We're 4 points behind. We'll go a point behind them if we beat them as well. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting game, I think, Nick. I think it's going to be a really tough test for Derby. I think it's probably our biggest actual proper test for a while. With Blackburn, we had it was the Eustace game. Coventry was, well, we were off the back of the Eustace game. We're at home. Plymouth was, they're the worst team in the league by a mile, away from home. Can we win again? I think this is Derby's first proper test, isn't it?
It could see it like that. But I don't think Swansea are a mid-table team at all. And I'd love to getting the Kevin Keegan out there, but love to beat him, drag him into the mire with us. I think that's the sort of that's the focal point we've got to use, is getting them into the mire with us. In terms of the Jerry Yates situation that he mentioned, I'm going mad left field here. I'm going to put Kenzo in that. Yeah, why not? Because your other options are Mendes Lang, who seems to have massively fallen out of favour, and Jackson. We've talked about Jackson's better coming on. He's been quite productive coming on 15, 20, 25 minutes and having a burst. So my left field prediction, and please feel free to laugh at me in the comments, but my left field is we're going to stick Kenzo in. I think Kenzo's got that technical ability, a bit like Yates, knit the play together. Yates isn't a number 9. We've said all season, Yates is a number 10 / plays up front with somebody. I know Harness isn't an out-and-out number 9, but that's what we're working with at the minute, and that's my 2 penneth on that situation. Preempting
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see Kenzo's hold-up play. Very quickly, Ivan, who would you put up front instead of Jerry Yates?
I would just play Jackson. I think Jackson will play. I think I'm not massively high on Yates anyway. I think he just runs and runs and runs, which I don't think Jackson does as well. But I think you get a little bit more of the technical side from Harness up there. So I'm fine with Jackson sitting up there and just pressing, keeping them on their toes. They get 60% possession and they're the second best possession side in the league. So just press them, do exactly what we did against Preston. They had a lot of possession. and I think we'll be fine. But yeah, I'd play Jackson, and I think he will play Jackson.
I think he will as well. I think he will as well. I don't think we're blessed with options, are we? Unless Kamar Roof comes back from the dead. I thought it was very interesting.
Forgot about him.
In Eustace's interview, he was asked, "Is anyone coming back?" And he went, "Yes." And they went, "Actually, no one's back." Like, Is no one back, John? Are you winding people up, John? But right, before we finish, let's get some score predictions. If you're watching, let us know in the comments what yours is. I'm going to go to you first, Ivan. What do you reckon? Score prediction, goal scorers, very quickly.
It's incredibly boring. I think we're due a 0-0. I think we're going to be brought back down to earth. Possibly a 1-0 loss. I just think there'll be a point away from home, losing Yates. I just think it possibly could derail a little bit, which is going to happen, and it's fine. And I trust that Eustace will do it. But yeah, I'm sorry to say I'm going with a 0-0.
0-0. Nick, what do you reckon, mate?
2-1, Nat Phillips to finally score. Ebu to go back and hold the team in Wales that's relevant to anyone. Then we concede and we cling on. But I've not predicted the win on this podcast yet before, so I'm going posy.
I like it. I like the positivity. I think it's going to be a draw as well. I'm going to go with Ivan, but I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. I think Derby will score, but I think Swansea will score as well. I think, like was mentioned by Swanscast, they're in semi-decent form at the moment. They've picked up a little bit. They've got a couple of decent players through the door in January. So I think it'll be a really tough game, but I think Derby have just about enough to get a result and could even make it 2 unbeaten on the road. How often does that happen this season? I tell you what, not very often. And we've got one in the comments from Cold Blood who says 1-1. Heartbreaking last-minute equaliser. Blimey, that's a bit depressing, isn't it? But anyway, 1-1. We're all thinking draw or a win. Hopefully Derby can keep the good form going. So thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. As mentioned last episode, they do actually make a huge difference, likes and subscribes. So I think about 48% of you listen to this won't be subscribed. So if you did enjoy, please do subscribe. It really helps us out a lot and helps us deliver more quality content, like when I accidentally cut Nick off and put the bloke in earlier. That's the sort of quality you're after. We've also getting really close to finishing our running challenge. So the link's in our description if you want to donate to that too. So thank you so much for listening. Up the Rams. We're winning games. Let's hope we can continue it at the weekend. It is goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
And Dan, I'm off to find my marbles. It's goodbye from me.
Thank you so much for listening. Up the Rams. Let's keep up this good form, and we'll see you soon.